Christine Salas. I'm the Healing Touch Professional Association Community Director, and this is our Member in the Spotlight series. And I want to welcome and introduce Timothy McConville. He's a Healing Touch certified practitioner and instructor. And he currently teaches Healing Touch in the USA and Sweden, and has taught in Nepal. He also has completed 2 levels of Reiki and has taught in other healing modalities. He is a co-founder of Awakening Healing Access, which teaches advanced healing work. His healing practice serves a wide variety of clients, which includes a private practice, as well as volunteering in hospital and long-term care settings. He actively mentors with his partner, Pam, primarily in group setting. He somehow finds time to write and publish as well, and we're going to talk about that. He has supported the local and national Healing Touch community in a variety of leadership roles. He has retired from his first career as an environmental engineer to devote more time to healing and spiritual practices. Welcome, Tim. So happy to have you here.
Pleasure to be here and honored to be able to do this. So.
Great. Well, I'm so excited for you to share your Healing Touch journey with us, as well as the books that you have out. So for my first question for you is really how did you come to Healing Touch? What drew you?
I think spirit drew me, is the honest answer. That is when I thought back about how I fell into it, I had done some healing work in the 80s and was dabbling in different things. I had taken Reiki before, but somehow the local hospital had an integrated program that they were just starting in. And somehow that piqued my interest, which when I look back, I'm a little puzzled about that. But I wanted to volunteer there, and I had slowed down my traveling so I could do more volunteer work. And so I gave them a call and asked how I could volunteer in that program. And they said I could take Healing Touch. And so then I took a class, and then I was smitten by that. And so I was doing Healing Touch every way I could. But they said, I called them back after my first class, and they said, you have to have a level 4. And so I said, okay, see you in a year. And after level 4, I did come back, and I volunteered at that hospital for about 5 years, I think, doing work on the floor. So I used that as part of my getting my 100, and then went on from there. And I ended up working in research with the integrated department for a few years at the hospital as well. So that was a wonderful experience. So that's kind of how I fell into it. And the more I did it, the more I just loved doing it. And it was really rewarding. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And what does being a Healing Touch practitioner, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think of Healing Touch as my foundation. As an instructor, I think it really deepens my understanding because in order to teach it, you have to go back and review it and really know the techniques and embody it, I think. As the way I think of it is that the instructor, in a sense, models the frequency and the energy of Healing Touch, and then the students are able to do that. So it's really more than just following the book. I think we're actually modeling that. And so I think, that it really deepens it, so that in a sense, I am Healing Touch that way. It's made me much more heart-centered, much more compassionate. I think it helps to see the divine in everyone and try to help others find that divine. And that's kind of what I think a lot of it is about. So yeah, it's really about helping people and helping them find their way to know themselves better, to deepen their awareness. And sometimes it's just to help with pain, but I like to see it a lot bigger than that.
Yeah, sometimes people don't realize that addressing a pain kind of leads to a lot of other healing, right?
Yeah, it often does, and yeah, people kind of miss it. It reminds me of a story of there was a woman. Part of my volunteering when I was in level 4 was at a nursing home and elder care, and so there was a woman there that I was working with, and she came to me because her shoulder hurt, and it was from a bad surgery like 40 years ago, and so we worked together for quite a while, and the shoulder would get better, but it would only hold for about 4 or 5 days, and then it would start to hurt again. But so in a sense, that piece that she came to me never worked. But what happened was the rest of her life changed. And she turns out there was probably depression. She started dressing different. She started socializing different. She had more friends. She was having much more fun in life, and in spite of the shoulder.
Yeah,
So the
amazing.
rest of her life changed, but the shoulder was just okay.
And tell us a little bit about how your practice has evolved over the years.
I think it definitely has changed and deepened. I think at first it was much more physical. A lot of it was, pain related, and more bodily based. I've worked in hospital settings for much of my time, and that's often pain based. And we're supporting surgeries, and people have pain and anxiety, and that's kind of the core of that work. Um, but I think it's deepened and become more spiritual. And I think over time, more people would come to me for more spiritually related reasons. I have a number of ministers that come to me as clients, which I always found sort of interesting. And they're coming for spiritual reasons and to deepen their spirituality. So, which is sort of fascinating. And I think the deeper I got into it, the more I started to understand how trauma shows up in the body. We teach that in our courses, but I think it takes a little while for the depth of that to sink in, and how basically all of our life experiences show up in our body in some ways, emotionally, and so it's about finding ways to release that, and to get more peace that way. Um, and then the work I'm doing now, I think, is more higher frequency work with the Awakening Healing Access. And I think that's really deepened my spiritual connection, and even deepens the heart-centered and self-love aspects of being. And a lot of times now, the clients I served tend to be highly sensitive people. So I'm doing a lot of work with the more sensitives of the world, and even children that are well, there's a lot of children coming in that are very sensitive, bright souls, and so working with these people with more gifts, and getting them to realize their gifts, and to have it so that it's not a curse, and it's more of a gift, because it can be really hard if you're overly sensitive, and don't know how to manage that. And so that's a lot of my work. It changes over time. And I think the universe tries to teach us, and they bring us clients. And so we'll get these runs of different kinds of people as we're learning our lessons. So
Mhm.
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And in addition to all of that, you're also a writer.
Yeah, I've got a few things cooking. There's so the first book that got published recently is Everything is Energy. I just mailed off my last copy, so I had to print out a copy of the picture. Um,
I should have grabbed mine. I haven't. I read it to my 3-year-old and she loves it. We love reading it at night.
and that's an interesting backstory on that book, is that when we were in Nepal, um, Pam and I and one of our friends was there, and I was there to teach a level 4 and level 3 class. And it was just before the big earthquake. And after the earthquake, those level 4 students, they worked on thousands of people. None of them they documented, but they, which is kind of hard to get to 5 that way. But anyway, the children were having trouble going to school because there was so much anxiety about aftershocks. And I think I had checked like 4 months after the earthquake, and they had like 300 or so aftershocks of 4.0. So like every day they were getting multiple earthquakes, which were smaller than the big one, but still enough to frighten everyone. So the kids weren't going to school. Everyone had anxiety, and Healing Touch, as we know, is wonderful for easing anxiety. So the schools got interested because those level 4 students were working with the schools, but they didn't have any curriculum. And so I pasted a book together to work with kids, and I used clip art, which was probably fine in Nepal because there's no issues there that people are going to taste it. But here I couldn't publish that book. And so for quite a while, it was in search of an illustrator. And then when Awakening Healing Access was looking at publishing, that publisher found an illustrator for me, and that's how the book finally got out. Is that so? It took like 4 or 5 years, and that I was just delighted with the illustrations, because illustrations make a kid's book, and so I'm not an illustrator. So I'm just delighted that it's out there, and the feedback I get is good. The kids like it. So.
Yeah, it's great. Like I said, my 3-year-old loves it, and she loves the illustrations as well. You know, she'll focus on them and what is this and what's that and look at that. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
the kids see the detail in those illustrations. It's amazing.
yeah,
They see better than I do. And the illustrator did really nice in terms of being multicultural and including all sorts of things. And the kids notice that. So
yeah,
it's great to see that.
for sure. Yes. And then you have another book, Awakening to Higher Frequencies.
Yeah, this one just published about a week ago, or just over a week ago, October 23rd, it came out. Um, and that one is based on so in some ways it's a culmination of the teachings, but it's based on the work of a workshop about a year ago. And so it's kind of what Awaken Healing Access has brought forward to that time. And so it gives some background about Awakening Healing Access, how we got there, and then the contents of that workshop. And so the protocols that we've come up with for that workshop are in there. And it's detailed out, so it's step by step how to do it. So it's a good how-to guide. And Cindy Dale, who actually lives in the same town as I do, wrote a great foreword. So we're delighted. And then it puts it on Cindy's web as well. And she's got a much broader audience, so that's good for promotion. But I think that work is really important, and it's nice to be getting it out. We brought it to Healing Touch at the last conference in San Diego, and we did a 1-day after that conference. And so a number of the Healing Touch people have taken it that way. I think we had 50 people in the 1-day. And so I think it was well received there. And then some of the people that come to our workshops also have Healing Touch backgrounds. So.
Mhm. Great. And I noticed that Franny Harsey co-wrote it or is involved in it somehow.
Yeah, so the triad that formed the co-founders of Awakening Healing Access is Jeanette Niebuhr, Franny Harsey, and myself. And so the triad had put that work together. And over time, Jeanette has taken on the role of lead instructor, and she's got a lot of things going with Healing Touch program, and they've been doing a lot of work, and so that's really consuming for her. And so she had to kind of step away from some of the things that we're doing, and so she didn't really have time to co-author the book. And so that's why the title is Franny Harsey and myself. But Jeanette's fingerprints are in there in the work, and she's been part of that triad and continues to be a part of it as well. So Jeanette is an important part of that work as well.
Great. Yeah, Franny was the qualified mentor of my mentor,
Ah,
one
okay.
who wasn't a qualified mentor yet. So I actually have had the pleasure of getting some guidance from Franny during my, level 4 to level 5.
Oh, yeah. So, and
Yeah.
she's taught around the country. I met Franny at level 6 where she was training to be an instructor, and she actually never became one. She was Cynthia's assistant for a while after level 6, but she's taught other modalities and she's mentored. And well, I guess she and I taught in the mentoring course, the previous version of the mentoring course that Jan and Mal had come up with. Franny and I were teaching that as well, and so she was teaching in that aspect.
Mhm. Great. So I understand in your book there are some new techniques, and I was wondering if you could share an example of a technique that's in your book.
So a lot of it's focused on raising our frequencies, and part of the key is really connecting deeper into the earth, and then also raising our frequency. And so in healing touch in level 3, we talk about core star and that expanding our core star. We use core essence, but it's really the same thing. But so it's expanding that, and then we think of it actually elevating that. And so in the healing touch books, it's an interesting. I think Core Star is a really interesting. If we look back into the Barbara Brennan work, if you look at her pictures, it shows it down kind of in mid belly, above navel, and then in the healing touch books, it shows it up by heart space. And so I think as we are evolving as humans, it's moving up. And our work has been to bring it higher and higher. And our first workshops, probably about 5 years ago now, we were bringing it up to throat and then above throat. And once it got above throat, and then it's like it freed it up. And and I was working on a client when we were still coming up with these techniques, and we rose course star to above head. And at that point, I hear from my guides is now they're not limited by the physical. And so actually to get it out of our physical frame allows us greater. I think it raises our frequency, but if you think about what core essence is it's your spiritual essence. It is not physical. It is the divine aspect of our spirit. And so if we can get it out of the trapped in physical, I think it allows us greater access into that connection with our divine essence. And so that's our techniques really focus on that. And so the core of what we do is about raising that essence and deepening our connection to essence, deepening our connection to soul, and allowing that to express itself. So and we could I'll let you be the guide on this, is that if I were to like voice us through it, it would probably take a minimum of 10 minutes. Or I can tell you to go to our website, and we have 3 different versions of meditations that one can listen to. And I would suggest everyone go listen to them anyway. Is 3 of them were put out at the beginning of the COVID as a way to help people. It's those 3 are really focused on healing COVID individually and planetarily. And then there's one called Chakra Fusion, and that's an interesting one. And what it's doing is it's actually blending our chakras. So it's blending the 7th and the 1st, and so it's fusing our chakra, because I think our chakra system is changing. It's evolving as well. So as our core essence changes, our chakras are changing. Our whole energy system is changing as we move into these new spaces. So what would you want me to do?
I think if you're willing, and I think we have time, if you want to guide us through so our members can get a taste of it and even more encourage them to go see more on your website, um,
Okay.
I think that'd be great.
Okay. So if you're listening, just settle in, get comfortable, get your feet on the floor, or you can be laying down. It's okay too. You don't have to be. But if you're sitting, get your feet on the floor. Think about taking a deep breath. Ground in your normal way, connecting to the planet. Just think about rooting deeper into the planet, connecting with our planet. And then bring attention to your dantian. And from dantian, send energy down to the core of the earth and imagine a crystal, your special crystal in the very core of the earth, connecting into the earth. And as you connect to the earth, imagine the pure divine essence of the earth, beyond any pollution, beyond, just like we think of our core essence, our core star as the divine aspect of ourselves. Connect into the divine aspect of the earth, at the very core of the earth, and allow your crystal to fuse with the crystalline structure of the earth. Feel your crystal merge with the grid lines of the earth. Bring this deep connection with the divine aspect of earth up that line of energy into your dantian, up into your soul seat, up past your forehead, up past the point of individuation, connecting to source above. Connecting now to source above, to the divine aspect of earth. Feel your connection to both the divine feminine, the divine masculine, bridging heaven and earth. Allow that energy to flow as your hara, and then widen your hara from your dantian. Bring that energy out to hips, down your legs, connecting through your legs with a wider hara. From soul seat out to shoulders, down your arms. Feel the strength as your hara widens. Then we'll ask Metatron to clear and transmute our hara. The Metatron inserts the Metatron's cube, this geometry, sacred geometry, and it spins down through from the top of our hara, slowly down through hara, clearing, repairing, transmuting. Just allow Metatron to slowly glide this spinning cube down through the hara, through your body, down to the core of the earth. Then it reverses direction, comes back up, spinning counterclockwise up through up the top of your head. And then let Metatron take a second pass as the cube does a final polish down hara. Glides a little faster the second time, up to the core of the earth, and then expands up, clearing then out the top of your head. And then just imagine rainbow, iridescent rainbow colors infuse the inside of your hara, filling it with this beautiful light, with your new, wider, brighter hara. And then we focus on your chakras. Use iridescent colors and spin iridescent red into your root, iridescent orange into sacral, spinning the chakras, opening them, iridescent yellow into your solar plexus, iridescent green into heart, iridescent blue into your throat, iridescent indigo into brow, iridescent violet into crown. Let them spin faster. Expand. Expand those chakras all the way out to your hara. And then focus on core star. And let core star, that brilliant light, light up your entire body, clearing all the cells in your body. And then let it expand beyond the physical into your etheric layer, clearing the etheric layer. Then bring it back to that point of light it is. Breathe it out into the emotional layer. Feel core star clear the emotional layer, dropping away all those emotions that you don't need at this moment. And bring it back to a point of light. Expand into the mental field, clearing and vitalizing the mental, clearing out all those thought patterns, mental aspects we don't need. Bringing calm back to a point of light. Expand into the fourth, your astral layer. Back to point of light. Expand out to the fifth, your etheric template, clearing the lines and grids of etheric template. And back to point of light. Expand out into the sixth, your celestial layer, expanding, clearing, vitalizing this beautiful sixth. Back to point of light. Expand out to your seventh, fully lighting up your etheric, lighting up all of your aura. Then bring it back and smaller, and think of it as in heart space. And then bring your palm of your hands in front of your heart space. And imagine in the palm of your hand is a Merkaba, which is the pyramid going up and down. It's an 8-sided star. Invite core star into this Merkaba in the hands and slowly bring that Merkaba up to your throat, allowing your core star to rise up to throat. Let it sit there for a little bit, recalibrate, changes the connections energetically in throat. And then slowly let it rise up to your brow. And allow it to settle in. You may feel things changing. Sometimes it's like it rewires at the brow to allow this frequency to run that high. And then we slowly bring it up above crown. And again, let it settle in. Allow the frequency to recalibrate. Give it permission to operate there normally. Allow core star to flow more deeply into you, to heart space, through your system. You can just let your hands drop. And so that's kind of the warm up that we do. And they keep tweaking it, and there's more expanded versions. That's kind of the basics of and so like in level 3 of healing touch with the hara. So this is like another version, higher frequency version of the hara alignment meditation, and we think we need to get to that level of frequency to do the work, and then we bring through our workshops a number of different protocols and healing. It's all guided work. Everything we do is guided angelically and other guides. So I think we have 30 some protocols now that have come through this. And so it's when we present it, I'm always just stunned as the presenter at how powerful it is and what amazing changes we see in the workshops. So it's a delight to do this. So. And
Thank you.
it's interesting. So when I go back to teaching healing touch, I go to those classes. My frequency is different because this changes me. And so I've noticed that even though I teach the exact same thing in the classes seem to be more enriched. So it's I think it helps us. It's like I tell people after the workshops, you'll never be the same again because once you shift your frequency, then it will stay unless you go back to you can drop it down again by the normal things, get too enmeshed in the lower frequency things of life, watch news for a few hours, that'll do it, right?
Thank you so much. What a
Well,
gift.
you're welcome.
I loved that expanding the hara and widening it. That just felt so good. And then raising the core star up. What a different feeling than
Yeah.
the usual, way that we think about doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little unfortunate that if the Barbara Brennan stuff is the core teaching in healing touch, and her imagery of hara is quite small, and she talks about it being this laser line, and I think about it as like a flow. It's like if you're going to put out a fire, are you going to use a garden hose or are you going to use a fire hose? And so this wider hara allows you to run more energy than that little laser line, I think. So
Yeah.
some people have it locked in because of the imagery in those books of hara being really small. And I think it can be really big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a lot more energy. You could just feel
Right.
that with that widening. So yes, thank you so much for that.
Yeah. And I just kind of a little teaching moment that I think a lot of people, the sensitive people of the world, and a lot of that defines a lot of the people in healing touch classes, are used to running big fields, and so I think we shrink and expand our field at will, and that's how part of how we interrelate with the world. And if we run too large a field, we get sensory overload. And so people are used to manipulating the size of their field, if it makes sense. But if you shift from, instead of expanding your field or your aura per se, expand core star and expand hara, and then you're going to be standing energetically in much more strength, and you won't be overwhelmed by everything. And so I think just as a how to function better in this crazy world. If we run our energy that way by expanding our core star rather than expanding our field, I think we'll be better off.
Yeah. I love that you said that because that's, without knowing that or really talking to anybody about it, I do that all the time. Like I love expanding my core star when I'm feeling like other people's energy is starting to affect my energy, right? And just kind of
Yeah,
being in my own space, but not shrinking it, right?
yeah,
So,
and I
yeah.
think, yeah, I think part of the survival mechanism for empaths is to shrink our fields.
Mhm.
We don't have to do that if we can learn to run the core star bigger. And one of my working things was I work at the hospital and work on staff, and I would use the hospital hallways as my lab, and I would take my clients for walks down the hall, and the sensitive ones, and have them walk down and learn to feel So every time you walk by anybody in a hallway, your fields are going to be rubbing against each other, right? And so to learn to gauge the reaction of when those fields touch, what happens? What chakra is being touched, or where do they feel it? And then if I get them to walk down the hallway with an expanded core star, it's like they just glide through. It's just like gliding through water instead of all this interaction. So it really smooths the interaction between energy bodies if we're in that state. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lovely. I love it. Um, so you kind of touched on it throughout, but anything else you want to share about how your healing touch journey has changed you?
Well, I think it's changed me a lot, I think, probably. And I think one of the big things was, my background as an engineer um, was very much in the head, so and I was always this closet mystic, and so I had to kind of hide that mysticism, and because it didn't go over real well in engineering world. And so I always had this notion that people, that I need to hide that. And so when I started doing healing touch more, it took me a little while to figure out that there's actually more interest out there than we perceive. And so we're always, I always was thinking, well, I'm the weird one. And so I'm a little reluctant to bring it up. And so to step out and realize that there's actually a huge interest in this area, and that we're not as weird as we think we are. And to get more used to that, I think. But in general, it's been a huge gift for me. I think it's softened me emotionally. I cry at movies. I never did it in my engineering days. And so I'm much more compassionate, I think, and emotional. And it's increased my sensitivity. I think I hid a lot of my gifts and turned them off, and it's allowed me to open that up more. So I have a tremendous gratitude, and life is sweet. I love it.
Wonderful. Any challenges that you want to share that you've kind of overcome in your journey?
Well, I think as I was alluding to, the old ideas, and the need to get out of our head. I think that's the biggest challenge for most of us in this world is we have a world that values the intellect and keeps us mostly in our head. We have religious systems that push going up, and I think we need to go down. So if we don't ground properly, we won't go up. And so I think both that religious pushing up and searching up for the answer, and the intellect pushes people in the upper chakras. I see this all the time in client world, and so and myself as well as. And so I think it's getting out of my head. It's been a big thing, and so and then being able to bridge that gap, I think, is a big thing. Is we experience this really rich world of energy, and how do we translate that to the public? And because I think there's this big gap of understanding. How can we simplify it and talk about it in analogies in a way that people can grasp it and get hooked enough to start looking in a little bit deeper. And then I think the one of the big challenges for me was, and it goes back to being in my head, is ultimately being able to move toward total trust of spirit. And so the more I can be in that zone where I just totally trust it and stop second guessing things, then life goes much more smoothly. If I listen to the guides rather than listen to my whining that goes on in the brain, which is normal. It's hard to shut it down completely, and I have not accomplished that task. I'm still quite capable of finding lower vibrations, but I, I do better. I spend more time higher than I did before. So.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. So, where can our members contact you? Where can they buy your books?
So I think on the Healing Touch website, there's a contact me. You can go through there, or I don't know if you want to provide them with email. People can email me if they want. Have questions. Um, the books you can buy they're only on Amazon, and so if you go to Amazon, you look up my author, or there's an author page that has the two books that I have with Franny, and then you can order them from there. It's available in paperback and in Kindle versions. You can go to the Awakening Healing Access website, and you can listen to we have four videos there that you can listen to. So it's another deeper one. There was an interview, and I think it's been taken down now. It was on the Healing Touch Professional Association's website. They did an interview a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, and that was on the Healing Touch website. I think it's been changed out now. And we used to have that, so we can't link to it. There's just an empty space on our website for that.
Okay,
Maybe you
well,
can find
thank
a way to
you.
resurrect it for this, but yeah.
Yeah, I will make a note of that. And I will include, when we share this recording, your email and those websites and,
Okay.
links to your books on Amazon. And so our members can easily find you and find your books.
Okay.
So Tim, thank you so much for sharing your Healing Touch journey, sharing all the new things that you're doing and about your books. Um, it's so truly inspiring, and I feel great after that meditation you guided me through. So thank you
Oh,
so
great.
much.
So I'm just delighted I can share, and always willing to help. All right. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. And, just a note for our listeners, if you wish to nominate someone for Member in the Spotlight, there is a form on our website that you can fill out, and it'll send a notification to me to contact that person. So please take a look at that. And we hope you enjoyed hearing Tim's story. I sure did. And thanks for listening.
All right. And I'll send you those links.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks. Enjoy the day.